Okay, another tool we want to explain to you is called the Peace Path. So in Spanish, Camino a la Paz. First and foremost, though, I want you all to know that this is completely optional. It can just be a really helpful tool if you think it's something that will be beneficial for your classroom. Because the main idea of the Peace Path is that students are resolving issues between themselves. So essentially, when you come up and get the tattling, this is where you can send students and they have to work through it. So Camino de la Paz, it's all translated in Spanish. And it even tells you where to start and then what each person says. And I have Lindsay here with me because she has used it before, so she's going to walk through it a little bit and how she used it in her classroom.
Yeah, so I used this in my first grade classroom at Burton, and so it was a much more simplified version, but essentially what happens is the students have to give you, the teacher, a signal, and you can create a signal. I used to do this. The students would show me this. Let's say we're walking in from recess, there was a conflict. They show this, I give a thumbs up, and that's basically my permission saying you can take it to the peace place. And if I did notice some tattling, I would use those exact words like take it to the peace place, or if it was chronic tattlers, for example, and they were still not quite sure about how big is my problem, maybe there needs to be a lesson with that. I know Nicole supports a bit with that as well. So I think that would potentially be something that you would want to add before introducing the peace place, especially for K-2. How big is my problem? When do I need to get an adult? Because that's important, I think, to distinguish between when you should be getting an adult for an emergency and when you could solve it between students. So essentially, the student would give me, or both students would give me the signal. I would give permission, and I typically would have a timer there, especially because it could lead to students not following the script and taking more minutes away from their learning time. So it should be very prompt. I would say 2 minutes or less, if 2 minutes, it could be way less than that. But really, each person stands on each of the sides. So the person that actually wanted to take someone to the peace place, so let's say Allison, like I did something that hurt her feelings, she would be standing on this side where it says Komi and then she would explain what happened, and then I would get my chance to explain. So we each have dialogue, I guess you would say, or sentence stems to help us. And then
do you want to go through it?
Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Lo que pasó para mí fue, me empujaste cuando estuvimos afuera.
Okay, lo que pasó para mí fue alguien que estaba esperando para el tobogán detrás de mí me empujó.
Me siento triste cuando me tratas así.
Yo escucho que tú te sientes triste cuando yo te empujo.
Yo escucho, and so on and so forth.
So essentially, each student has their turn to talk, and this especially, if obviously this is a new thing, if you're choosing to introduce this in your class, a lot of modeling with you and another student. Also even providing, I would do in first grade, like little scenario, each Pareja group would get a scenario card and they would have to act it out, and I would have the phrases here. At the end, chocarse los puños, or there needs to be a resolution.
She has a firm grip.
I learned it from my grandpa.
So to summarize.
Yes, to summarize. What are we summarizing? Yes, salir con paz is what we're trying to say. Is really what we're trying to say is that I talk a lot, but also that this essentially can
How did you see it benefit your class,
Yes.
I guess?
Okay.
Maybe round it out with that. How did it benefit your class?
I think students started to understand a better way to solve conflict than just like going back and forth, and it also gave instruction time back to me, which was very helpful. Having to not put out fires after recesses or, after unstructured time or whenever. And I think it also built empathy with a lot of kids. And I will even tell you that I would start to take students to the peace place, and it really depended on the student. But if it was a student that we had several heart-to-hearts and, things, they needed to see my view of things, they needed to understand how I was feeling with the behavior that they were showing, then that actually was very impactful for myself and that student. It kind of turned on a light bulb for them, like, oh, I didn't realize you felt this way when I did this. So I think it's a really great tool to build empathy and independence and problem solving.
So, long story short, in summary, the upper grades, you will have kind of the full piece because it really does walk through how I was feeling when this happened, what happened in their eyes, what happened in the other person's eyes, hearing what and acknowledging what the other person said. So again, it takes a little bit longer. There's more steps, but it's worth it because it dives into those skills that our students really need. With the younger kiddos, it will probably be
Like half of
of this. So again, completely optional, but can be really helpful depending on your class's needs. So thanks, everybody.